There's not a lot of dogmatism in our tradition. That's not the approach Swamiji likes to use. When he grew up in his monastery, the cave monastery, he was pretty much a wild kid. His master had to throw his wooden shoe at him at least 12 times before he was 10 years old, so he'd pay attention in class, because he's always fooling around. His master never ordered him too much to do something. He tried to persuade him. Or else. He never kept him away from exploring the villages, even the towns, providing him with enough shekels that he could go and enjoy himself, even stay away overnight. He wanted him to become a human being, not a hermit. People often fantasize what it would be like to live in that cave. As Ramana Maharshi says, if you're not meant for it, don't try it. But you might have to try to find out if you're meant for it. One night when I was in India, we'd just come back from a big trek out in the mountains, and Swamiji was going to speak at night. And I was sitting next to somebody, some of you may remember, Lad Korsh. Lad died a few years ago, unfortunately. He was very athletic. And suddenly I said to Lad, you know, I've been to India so many times, I keep saying, why am I coming here? I don't need to come here. I mean, if I'm coming here to meditate, I can meditate at home. I don't need to come here to meditate. At that moment, Swamiji walked out on the stage. His opening line was, why do you come here? You don't have to come here to meditate. He didn't want to. Oh my God, he stole it from me. He was good that way. I don't know whether he put it in me or whether he took it out. But that's the whole point, huh? You carry the tradition with you. It's got nothing to do with visiting temples, saying malas, memorizing the scriptures. If you want to, go ahead. But the essential thing is, know thyself. Did you know that that famous maxim is incomplete? Yep. It's taken from the Delphi temple in Greece, but there was always a second part that everybody leaves off, and it's more important in one sense to know that second part, because the first part you don't know what to do with it until you hit the second part. Does anybody remember the second part? Look at this. Do you want to know the second part? Know thyself, and the knowledge of the gods is yours. Now think about that. Look at the implication, the connection. And you can say, well, so if I have the knowledge of the gods, then what? It's everything. The gods know everything. If you have their knowledge, you have everything. And it just happens to be a connection to the heart of our tradition, which is not yoga, not Vedanta, not Sankhya, but something called Sri Vidya. And the second premise of Sri Vidya goes like this. You are a nucleus, and the universe is your expansion. Put that together with know thyself and the knowledge of the gods is yours. And they come together. There are no limitations except those you impose on yourself. One of our clansmen, if I may use that term, remarked once, all wise teachings are only meant to inspire us to retrace our steps to the original source. We need not to acquire anything new, only give up false ideas and useless accretions. Instead of doing this, we try to grasp something strange and mystical because we believe happiness lies elsewhere. This is a mistake. You'll never guess who said that. It wasn't Swami Rama. It was Ramana Maharshi. Swami once remarked that in his stay with Ramana, he felt he was the most profound yogi he found on the land. His master was the most profound yogi he found up in the mountains. That's the distinction he made. Let's go on with that theme, if I may. If you were to compare yourself to a tree, a curse would arise only when the tree craves its falling leaves. When the tree remembers to the core of its being, there is only the joy of being in the seasons as they pass. Note that one. If one would be aware of each tissue the body possesses, like a nest of birds knows the 3 branches it lives upon, if one would be aware of each caress the blood gives to its veins, like the shore of sand feels when the sea ebbs and flows, if one would be aware of each breath, like flowers in the field feel the bees and the butterflies that come and visit them, if one would be aware of the breeze upon the skin, like a forest feels a wind, definitely for such a person, if it came to exist, there would be no more separation between the mind, the body, and nature. They would become intimate companions. And that's how you make plum trees grow in the wintertime. If you get my drift. Think about that, though. That's a rather almost colossal remark to say that the universe is your expansion. He's not talking about window shopping or getting on, Southwest Airlines and going to Belize. He's talking about a cognitive and affective union with reality. That's your goal. Look how far you've come today because of your smarts. Not just your schooling, but knowing how to deal with life, get along with people, raise kids, at least try. And all of it is because of those 2 powers, for the most part. Yes, you had to use your imagination and your motor powers, no denial. But it was your cognitive and affective juices that have made you where you are today. And what our tradition does, it doesn't deny any of that. It says you're already on the way. That is part of the process of enlightenment. And enlightenment is not some kind of, place way out there. You're already on the path of enlightenment through your powers. Because that's all you've got. Your powers spell out your nature. And what makes our tradition interesting, unlike many others, is that we take a very staunchly holistic approach. And when you speak of going all the way to the universe, you're really speaking of wisdom. Because that's what the gods were noted for. They were the wise ones. We were the philosophers, the lovers of wisdom. We want to get it. And that's where we connected with the deities. So we're meant to explore the intricacies of our human nature in its relationship to the real world. And that tradition has been going on for eons. Yeah, it goes way back. And one of its principles is that's how meditation actually started, at least in a formal way. Unfortunately, today we tend to divide meditation from hatha. That's a false distinction. They belong together. And we always use a natural methodology based upon both the systematic as well as the spontaneous expansion of your own self-awareness. Really, you should all be from Missouri in our tradition. You want to taste the reality, not just ponder it, speculate about it, window shop with it. No. We want to do it, reflect on it, compare it. Swamiji used to scold me. He said, never, never take anything I say on faith. Go home and prove it to yourself. Now that's the kind of guy I'll follow when they talk like that. Our tradition is full of self-care principles. In our tradition, you love the body. In fact, in Sri Vidya, they refer to the body as a sacred shrine. Now, don't tell your girlfriend that. You'll never get away then. And the tradition says within that sacred shrine is a dweller, the self. They go together. We don't try to put down the body, banish it, hurt it. No. We don't believe in a lot of fasting, things like that. No. We want to care for it. We want to understand it. What is nutrition? What is exercise? How do I apply them to my circumstances? You don't follow a book. The Hatha Pradipika is fine. It's a guideline. But you don't have to imitate it. We are a dynamic composite of body and mind, full of incredible powers, including what they call the unconscious realm. I always got a charge of the word unconscious. Well, if it's unconscious, what's good is it? Well, we're to bring forth all of that so that it is now part of your consciousness. So, we can learn a lot from modern day psychology, especially in the last 70 years. They're very good on singular points. They're able to analyze our thoughts, even our feelings, resolve certain issues, but they all miss the same point, all of them that I've studied. And that is they overlook, and some even deny, that there's a fundamental source out of which all our powers arise. That's what our tradition espouses. Let's find out about that fundamental source. How do we do that? Well, we're all living in a culture. We're embedded with various values, standards. We can't help it. We've got to live in this culture. But it's not necessarily essential to our being. Your nature is exceedingly flexible in terms of its variations, the way it manifests itself. You know, you look around at all the people here, we're called human beings, but nobody's a clone of anybody else. You're meant to develop yourself, not by imitating any yogi, but by discovering how these principles can emanate from you. At the very heart of your being, you have what is called a conatus. C-O-N-A-T-U-S. It's in the English dictionary. It's an innate striving. That's what it means. Striving for what? For perfection. Perfection simply means to fulfill your nature. Not to be perfect in horse racing or picking the Super Bowl. It's to learn how to perfect yourself as a human being. If I had to put my finger on the major problem I keep running into among the people, in my observations, my readings, my travels, it all boils down to one point, in my estimation. People simply don't understand their nature and its powers. They use them, they play with them, they abuse them, they exploit them, they strain them, but they don't have a fundamental grasp of their order. That's what our tradition tries to instill. So we take you through the sutras. You read the various philosophies. And then you have to recognize that the fact that you are in a modern world. You're not in the world where the sutras were created. And so you have to understand the very world you live in and recognize that you can transcend it. And that's the biggest slip most people make. They find themselves in this world with all its values, its benefits, and other things. But they somehow feel that that's all they can be. And even if you take the Army slogan, be all you can be, they mean it within their paradigm. And so we come shattering through with our tradition, say, whoa, what you can be right now is only a modality of your being. Underscore that, modality of your being. It doesn't exhaust the full potentials of your being. And this frightens people. Because they're concerned, well then, who am I? Oh, I love that one. Who am I, huh? As you get to know yourself, you get to know the who that you are. You get to know the one who arouses these questions in the first place. You're starting to return to the original source within. And then the magic happens. Especially when you begin to involve yourself with something called meditation. People banty that word around. And if they'd only reflect a little more and then test it out in themselves, they'd begin to see a few interesting disclosures. Gradually, if you follow meditation, which is a rather strange occupation for the mind, because it's not preoccupied with any new ideas or feelings or plans or projects. In fact, you're turning yourself off from the external attention that normally occupies yourself all day long and got you to where you are in life today, and you're saying, whoa, I want to step out of that stance. Really? Seems almost irrational. It's trans-rational, really. You don't deny rationality, you're just, as it were, putting it aside, letting it be. And what happens as you begin to meditate? You slowly awaken and enhance all your inner powers that got you to where you are today. Those powers that enable you to know the world and to manifest your creativity into it. That's your knowing yourself. And gradually, as you begin to stabilize that meditation, and I can't say how long that might be, but you'll find that it will gradually affect an unobtrusive demeanor as you walk about life, keeping a critical eye. Because you see, you're preparing yourself for meditation's complement, contemplation. There are two major forms of contemplation that occupy us. One is the pondering, reflecting, somewhat discursive activity of trying to figure out what's going on, reflecting on your life, your family, and so on. Fine. But there's another one. The other one is when you are somewhat enthralled by the radiance of truth. If I may use a commonplace example, when you take a walk in the autumn woods at the dusk of day, and you see the shafts of light shining through these colored leaves, and you're taken up with its beauty. You forget about time, your problems, even where you are. Because what you are involved in right now simply expands your appreciation of life, including yourself. That's what meditation is preparing you for. that cognitive and affective experience that gives you a new meaning on existence. You're knowing the who that you are. You're allowing the kanadas to express itself by first being inspired by these experiences. And sometimes they can overcome you even in the quiet of your home. You can watch your child lying there in the bed, and it suddenly hits you. This is yours. You brought it in to this world. And you're struck by that truth. And it's along those lines that we can understand what Joyce said. We sometimes have an aesthetic arrest. Now think about that. Could you be any happier than at those moments? So what does that tell you about the nature of happiness? Is it the acquisition of wealth, prestige, political power? Or is it something more? These are not bad. No one's putting them down. But is that enough for you? Will that satisfy you? Will that quench this inner thirst you have to fulfill your being? So all the books you read, all the classes you take, all the teacher training you involve yourself in, all the visits to India or other places, these are all means. And by all means, explore them. Derive from them what you can. But keep coming back and with that personal inquiry. Who am I? What's it all about? That's what our tradition is trying to explain to you. Not theoretically, but by inducing you to do the practices so that you can actually experience the truth of what those words mean on paper. Anybody can memorize the sutras, but how many of them can do it? So instead, as Ramana says, trying to grasp something strange and mystical, just return to the question, who am I? Now, you have a chance to change your mood anytime you want. Most people don't know that. I'm serious. They get so caught up with their issues, their pressing problems, their worries, either about themselves or those they are fond of, and they carry around and just rehearse those problems again and again. And so their vitality stays in that modality. And all they have to do is change it, and they'll be able to see the issue much more clearly without being so overwhelmed by it that they feel unable to cope with it. And how do you do that? Very simple. Change your vitality. and they'll just stare at you. You're a body-mind complex, a psychosomatic being. The blood that's running through your veins right now is moving at a certain speed, causing a certain temperature. Some of you are breathing diaphragmatically, some may not be breathing that way. All of that coalesces into making you feel the way you do at this very moment. It even has an effect on the thoughts you're having, the attention you're paying. Yet there's something that transcends that amazing dynamism, that can alter it at will. At will. I'd like to go back to a gentleman I mentioned last week, Norman Cousins, one of my heroes. He used to raise these questions with his friends. Do you want to feel more alive? Do you want to enrich yourself with more of life's energy? Do you know how to call upon unlimited energy, resources for renewal? Would you like to be less susceptible to tiredness and chronic stress? Do you want to exert more bodily vigor and be less tired while you work? And finally, what would having more vitality mean for you? If you remember, he proved that he could change his vitality in a few minutes. Later on, he was interviewed, and they asked him, what were the key factors you think in your own self-therapy, if you want to call it that? And he said you should develop the following attitudes. 1, be absent of panic in the face of grave symptoms. Have an unshakable confidence in your body's self-healing ability. The next one's going to be hard for some of you. Have an irrepressible cheerfulness. If you have to see a physician, go in as a partner relationship. He doesn't dominate you. And finally, have a firm focus on creative and meaningful goals, which can make recovery and life worth fighting for. Not bad. Another closet yogi. So I'm going to challenge you tonight. You didn't know this was coming. I'm going to challenge you to enhance your vitality in this room in the next few minutes. And I'm going to request that you follow the procedure as I narrated. If anybody doesn't want to do it, they can leave now and we'll charge you more. So be prepared, gang. Now I have a sufficient number of people to do this in quite well. And I'm even going to use the board later to prove to you that you just did it properly. Nobody flunks my courses, so just get that straight. You will all succeed. All right. What I'm going to do is divide you up into twos. Basically, you're to turn to the person on your left, not now. Whether you know him or not, it's irrelevant. Perhaps it's better if you didn't know him. And I'm going to ask you to conceive and imagine. The two go together. something you may not have thought about for a while. But I want you to go along with me if you would, because I guarantee you, you will change your vitality, and I'll prove it to you. Make it self-evident. So I'm hoping I've sold you all on the idea to just do a little self-experimentation, huh? This is our path. And then I have a double surprise for you at the end, when you finish it. It'll only take a few minutes, but follow my procedure if you would, and don't get ahead of me, because I want to keep everybody in line together. Makes it much easier for all of us to benefit from it. Okay, I'd like you all to stand up for a moment, please. Take a couple of deep breaths, diaphragmatically, of course. Now sit down. Just need to change that venue, that energy venue, as I call it. All right. Now, heads up. Here we go. Close your eyes. Please keep them closed. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be harmful. Just keep them closed. Now, I'd like you to think a few years in the future. I want you to imagine what you'd like to be doing, say, in 3 to 5 years. Do you want to move someplace else? All right. Go there. In your imagination. Do you want to be doing a different job? Go there. Do you want to expand your business? You want to become a teacher? You want to become a writer? If there's a special hobby that you're very fond of that you'd like to devote more time to, do that. You're getting it. Start to become what you want to be in 3 to 5 years in your mind. See yourself there. If you want a new house, put yourself in the house. Walk through all the rooms. Color the walls the way you like them. See yourself working your hobby. Going on a vacation maybe. Around the world vacation perhaps. See yourself with a job change if you want. Or a promotion. Create. Let your imagination and your desire come together now. Don't put restrictions. Be there though. Don't just look at it, feel it. Notice the colors, the shapes that are part of it. This is not an abstract proposal. You are making it as concrete as you can. Let yourself be and walk and breathe in that situation, doing what you want to do because your heart is calling you to it. Notice how it develops. Things may pop up that you didn't even anticipate now that you're giving a free rein to your cognitive and imaginative powers which are within you. Just let it fill itself out. Don't hesitate. Be surprised even by what you see and feel. But feel it as best you can in your bones. Be there with it. Notice what people come into it. Notice who else is with you, perhaps. See them in the concrete, experiencing what you're experiencing. Okay. I want you to halt thank your mind internally. Open your eyes. Now, each of you turn to the person next to you, and the person on this side, the right side of the person who's on his left, let them tell the person next to them what they hope for. And the other person's job is to keep asking him a question to open it up. Go ahead. Okay, folks. You have your attention. Now change places. Let the other person tell you what they have and you question them. Okay. Come on back. Come back. Whoa! Easy. Now I got to calm that energy down. Okay. Feel a little different? All right, now. Here we go. If I could have measured your endocrine system before we started and took measurements now, you would be quite surprised. When Norman Cousins stood before the medical faculty of UCLA, and for 5 minutes, if you forgive me for repeating this, he articulated, as you did to the person next to you, what he wanted. What he wanted was world peace. This is during the period of Dutton. And he described Gorbachev and Reagan coming together in a Swiss chalet, leaving all their bodyguards outside and sitting down like two men and simply saying, what do you want, really? And they both spontaneously said, peace. Okay, let's write a charter for peace. And so the two of them spent the next hour and a half ironing it out, congratulating each other, getting up, and they both flew, in his articulation now, Cousins, to the United Nations in New York, and marched down the hallway, arm in arm, and both declared their complete agreement in this Charter for Peace. Then they took the blood samplings, and they discovered that his immune system increased cells now 53%. If there were 100 million cells in his body, there were now 150 million cells in his body. Where did they come from? Think about that. He didn't say, come on, breed cells. Where did they come from? It was not on his mind to increase his immune system. But it happened. The endorphins went wild. Think about it. Why? Now that's what happened to you, and here's how I'm going to prove it. Give me spontaneously, throw them out at me. What did you feel in yourself as you were telling your friend about your future? Give me a single word.
Excitement.
Hold it. Excitement. Next.
Anticipation.
Huh?
Anticipation.
Anticipation. What else, gang? Come on.
Joy.
Joy.
Openness.
Openness.
Optimism.
Hope.
Hopeful.
Optimism.
Energized.
Yeah, thank you. I've been waiting for that one.
Contentment.
Huh?
Contentment.
Content. Ooh, I like that.
Happiness.
Even happiness got in here. Okay.
Potentia.
Huh?
Potentia.
Potentia. Who's our Latin scholar here? More?
Creative.
Ah, yes.
Trust.
Trust. Ooh, neat.
Relieved.
Relieved. Oh, at last. Okay. What you provided for at your own instigation, you generated it. You came up with what I call a vision. No one forced you. You selected it. You composed it on your own terms. It wasn't wildly erratic. It had certain practical implications, but it was your vision. But the vision alone would not cause your immune system to change yet. It needs one more factor. And that factor that was in you is proved by this. When you felt, notice what I say, felt this. The reason you felt it, because in addition to your vision, you fell in love with it. This is the proof that you fell in love with it. You wanted it. You wanted to will it. You got excited about it. So it's the vision plus love that changes your immune system. Think about that. You weren't window shopping. You really meant it. You want it. You want this future. Otherwise you wouldn't have been involved the way you were. So keep that in mind. The most dramatic change you can make in yourself, in your immediate vitality, is to combine a vision and fall in love with it. You're going to get an added invoice for this seminar.
Sure.
Now, let me go on. Just think about that, huh? You can even feel it in your body. You can't deny it. It's self-evident. You were changed by that experience in the exchange with your colleague next to you. Think about that. Your destiny is in your hands. Nobody else's. You want to change the world? Change yourself first. And the reason this is possible is because you are unique, irreplaceable, and some of you are sacred, especially if you're Irish. The Norwegians have a long way to go yet. Oh, God. I better not say any more. You are ultimately responsible for the destiny of your life force. If you don't claim your energies, somebody else will. A preacher, a politician, a candlestick maker. They'll abscond with them. Your nature is a dynamic composite of body and consciousness. And because it's conscious, it's eternal. We finally got to tonight's lecture. This is all an introduction, by the way. Your optimum well-being can be a function of every aspect of your life, not just the physical. And the enlivening force for your entire being is your consciousness. And rationality is one of its modalities. You're more than your concepts. You are You possess many forms of life energy, physical, mental, and they're all intimately related. Perfect health is a mirage, but the perfectibility of your well-being is your birthright. Healing is the prerogative of your innate life force. Your body's always healing itself. Just give it a chance. Your stomach lining lasts a week and you got a brand new one. Your skeletal system lasts about 3 months and you get brand new ones. Your surface skin lasts about 30 days and you got brand new. Well, how come I look the same? You haven't changed the blueprint. But you can change the blueprint. Agents of disease are not its causes. Self-management is easy if you start with the small things first. And finally, the last one, which I quote from Swamiji, you are complete but unfinished. And that's where all the fun is. One of the big things you have to get past, gang, and it's a challenge, in varying degrees, and I composed this for you people today. Who's afraid of being alone? People don't know how to appreciate what it's like to be alone, solitary. On the contrary, they say, I tried it, didn't like it, got restless, even scared. My retort, of course you did, since you weren't really alone. You weren't really alone. Instead, your straining impatience evoked a formidable shadow, fear. You evaded being alone by consenting to the emotion, so became inseparable from it. By adhering to that fear, your purview of self and life distorts. After all, how truly could you want to be alone when you so easily arrange to be afraid of yourself? To repeat something again, but it's pertinent here. Back in the mid-'80s, I was involved in the United Kingdom's first holistic health center. I was in charge of all stress management. Oh boy. We put out a program to the financial and business community. We said, all you people that are suffering from the restless nights, impotence, indigestion, loss of temper, come on in if you don't want drugs. We'll show you how to heal it, and manage it so it won't become an issue for you. Oh boy. They signed up in droves. So we divided the classes up. We had about 60 people. More than half of them left after 2 weeks. And the reason, we weren't moving fast enough for them. You got the point? And I wrote a letter to each one and politely scolded them, saying, you missed the point, guy. If you'd stayed longer, you would have transcended your issues. Some of them, it took 9 months before they could lie still for 3 minutes without their mind badgering them or scratching a leg, And it really was enlightening for me how difficult it is in a consumer society, where everything comes down to the bottom line. But those who made it got rid of their high blood pressure pills, and they weren't so worried about their heart. So, let's try for a quick glimpse from a different slant here. To be alone means to be in a plain stance of sheer awareness. Oh. One experiences a kind of inclusive perspective, but it gets so pervasive through my senses and my mind that it leaves no cracks open for fear or doubt or worry or skepticism. Sitting on a bench with your eyes wide open in the park, Let the ideas and desires flutter by. You could care less. You're becoming abundantly poised in silent sentience. You're just aware. Now, some items and objects about you are fairly stationary. Some are moving. Some are sounding. The birds, the squirrels, the traffic. Some are interacting with the environment. So what? As you sit there pausing, an unsuspected composure will start to sneak up on you. It could be said that you're entering into a confident readiness of mind. Strange, but you don't feel uncomfortable, not needing anything or anybody. Ooh, that's a first. Parenthetically, in the past, you are familiar with the range of deliberate action induced when you are involved with friends, occupied with a likable, timely task. But here, instead, you're by yourself. No constraints, no timetable, no haste, no rush, just the simple amplitude of solitariness. What people don't get is that their stern efforts, these are especially the Brits, they're always like this. Their discursive preoccupations, their pressing emotion to obtain the solitary experience suppresses it. Really? Yes. Like an indignant muse, aloneness won't tolerate coercion, or else she's gone. Now, how to woo her? Here we go. Enter upon her territory, like sauntering through the cool autumn woods. I love the autumn. With no expectations. How strange. No goal. What? I can live without a goal? Except for being on friendly terms with nature's spectacle and seeing what ensues. Just be willfully easy in the saddle. Before long, a serene feeling, I'm serious, issues forth. The ambiance of the forest irresistibly beckons your contemplation. Soon a surprising mood of wonder may even join with gratitude. And now, fearlessly, you're free at last, at home alone. And now, with that your being, go about life. Okay, gang. Got any questions? Come on, I'm ready. You've had enough formal courses while you've been here. I'll give you a different treat, huh? Stay grounded. Stay practical. Be human. If you slip, so what? Pick it up next time. Gradually you'll get a taste for silence, for your meditation. But never give up chai. That's important.
Not to worry.
The more human you become, the more you're advancing in our tradition. What I like so much about Swamiji, I could tease the hell out of him. I was respectful, but I teased him all the time. And he could read through it. He said he knew. Huh? But I had that rapport. I don't know where it came from. Others wouldn't do it. They were afraid of him and all that. With them it'd be forced. With me it was just natural. The way I might tease Andy or Denny or Rebecca. I just like to. Even you, Carol. That's okay. So what I'm trying to emphasize, gang, it sounds strange. How could we be in a tradition that says you should become humane? Well, that's it. We give you the techniques, the practices, the sadhana, if you were going to call it that. Fine, you've got to do that, because what you're developing is what I call virtues. Virtue is simply the management of your powers so that they always go to the proper good. You can rely upon them, you can trust it. And you don't have to worry about memorizing the sutras or, am I following ahimsa? Am I being detached? Don't worry about that. You will naturally, because your choices will come spontaneously from the nature that you possess. You are so intrinsically sound. You just got to release all the blocks. You will choose the right good to do. You will choose when to be just and prudent and temperate. Those virtues will just flow from you because they come from your nature, because they're meant to be. They're an expression of your nature. You can't help it. You will curb the pettiness, the fears, the competition, the competitive attitude. That'll all become toned down. You're living in a real world. You've got to be somewhat competitive. But you won't make the mistake that tears my heart apart when I read about 23 veterans a day commit suicide. 23! And this has been going on for 10 years. Because they made a fatal mistake and they were encouraged to do it. They misidentified their role with their nature. That's the biggest tragedy we can do. They didn't fall in love with the vision of their nature. They fell in love with an embedded paradigm. I've got to be this militaristic, patriotic, And somehow they couldn't see beyond that. So when they came back to this society, which is not, aggressively competitive the way they were trained to be, they don't have to do it themselves. They don't have to take orders anymore. In other words, they have to start making their own decisions based upon their experience, which they have to collect. And no one showed them how to do it. In our tradition, we are patient, we're gentle, but we're firm. You don't take crap from anybody. I'm serious about that. None of this demurring stuff. We want strong women. Amazon. If we can get them. And we want men to be men of their word, who live the truth. That's what our tradition's all about. It's not about memorizing the sutras. We're worrying about ahimsa and detachment. That'll all take care of itself. You know that already. You don't measure yourself by anybody else. You measure yourself by the joy you're experiencing in life. The gratitude you feel for being alive, having all your senses, keeping your health, enjoying the preserving of it, even when it gets boring. That's normal. When you change into that direction, people will see that in you. I'm serious. They'll pick it up in you. They'll say, this person is real. They'll be drawn to you. Even animals will like you. So, I hope I've got my vision across to you, the way I see the tradition, based upon my very limited and clumsy experience. Each of you will have to work out your own path, taking the principles, applying them to your situation, whether you're here or in Montreal. Just keep that in mind. the more joyful you can create, and I mean it, create it, the more you're going to advance in your self-understanding. The more people will trust you. The more you're going to be able to read people. All your senses become more and more keenly aware of the environment. I dare you to disprove me. Your dreams will change. Some of you will have prophetic dreams. I mean that. If your emotions are cruising along properly, you can easily have prophetic dreams. Just ask your mind to dream about what you really would like. It'll bring it to you. I'm serious. Your mind already knows what you're going to do in the future, by the way. That's why Swamiji could tell you ahead of time what you're going to be doing the next month. He was dead on all the time. That power to know is meant to broaden, expand. You are the nucleus. There is no end to this universe. That's why you're eternal. The soul can't die. Body can. So we're going to move on. Don't worry about it. I'm going to hang around a long time. I'm so far behind in what I want to do, I'll never die. You will know spontaneously when to help someone. So don't worry about saving the world. Yes, ma'am.
One of the focuses we've had this week has been the idea that joy arises from focus, particularly one-pointed focus.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you agree with or would like to
That's
talk
part of it.
more about? Or?
I think it's wider than that. I think you can walk into a situation with a very wide ambiance and just draw to yourself the beauty that's there. That's a type of focusing, too. But you don't have to be real drilled, right in like that.
Focus
No.
in the moment, being really present and being aware.
The environment usually will draw you to that. See, you have a natural affinity to know life about you, a natural affinity. And life about you has an equal complementary affinity for revealing itself to you. A tree doesn't hide itself from you. You can go up and touch it, smell it, press it, lean against it, feel the energy. All of nature's like that. So in a sense, nature never stops revealing itself. The complement to that is you should never stop becoming aware of nature, including people, society, both culture and nature. Those are the two orders of life. Your job is to get to know them and how to live with them without exploiting them. By the way, that's a metaphysical insight for all you philosophers. Yeah. You can't help but focus on beauty if it's real. And you're receptive. That's the key. I find it very hard to go into a restaurant with a lot of agitated noise. I just won't stay there. It just bothers me too much. There's no beauty. There's just noise. And I don't want to dull my senses, so I'm very fussy. So be prepared if you take me to dinner. As you go through life, there's a basic, we'll call it attitude, that gradually surfaces. It's this attitude of seeing things as they really are. That's harder than you think, because we always want to add our agenda, We only want to see part because we want it to come out the right way, huh? When we do it that way, we're a little insecure. We're really afraid of just being present to life as it is and taking it in, and then making up my mind what should be the proper action. Your meditation is preparing you to see things as they really are, because that's an act of contemplation. You can't separate the two. They feed into each other. And what happens, and I'm telling you this from experience of talking with students who've been in it for a while, there's almost an excitement to wonder what you're going to see today. You're so, how can I say it, thrilled with the powers that enable you to unite to life. Because that's what knowledge is. It's a union. You will know the tree as the tree knows itself, so to speak. That's what you're heading for. That's how you realize your immortality or your eternalness. You will never stop knowing. I'm sorry, it's infinite. And you'll never get bored. When people say I'm bored, I'm saying you're lazy. You're not trying hard enough. So it all goes back to you. What do you want out of life? What do you want out of yourself? How far do you want to go? Let's go, without limits. Okay. Can you be, and this is the hardest thing, and I can't give this one to you, you got to generate it. Can you be patient with yourself? Life is going to do what it wants to, whether you pay attention or not. You have to be patient and be willing to reverse your path, change your mind, forgive the past if you have to. Don't carry around old vendettas from years ago. It ain't worth it. You want to be free. It takes more than love to be free. It takes wisdom. You put those two together, nothing can stop you.